up, pick it up. You see the drippy, I'm fitted up. Hop in my car and the giddy up. Secure the bag, yeah, I get the bus. Pick it up, pick it up, pick it up. You see the drippy, I'm fitted up. Hop in my car and the giddy up. Secure the bag, yeah, I get the bus. Pick it up, pick it up, pick it up, pick it up. Ooh, I've been on the flex since flex on. Neighborhood all in your eardrums. I ain't never scared like Bone Crush. Boy, I got God, don't fear none. My line busy, take no calls. Feels like I don't have no flaws. Snakes in the grass, cut those off. Pick it up, pick it up, pick it up, pick it up. No breaks, we go, 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 go. Throw shade, that's a no, no, no.
Can you hear me? Where we go? What's up, you guys? That's on me. Welcome to Paradigm tonight. I'm so glad you guys are here with us. How you guys doing? Welcome back to winter. This is winter part 2. If you got excited for summer, you got scammed. It's winter again. Welcome to winter. Wherever you're coming at with us, from Johnson County Crossroads or one of our Paradigm posts, we are glad you guys are here. Guys, I spent $100 on 2 fish for my 5-year-old son a month ago. I looked at the fish tank and it said $4.50 for each fish. I don't understand how I walked out of there with $100 worth of material to keep these fish alive, but I did. And the whole point of me buying fish for Levi was it was his 5-year-old birthday. I'm like, hey, you're not a little boy anymore, you're a man now, and you gotta start taking care of some things, get some control over some things, like start to own something. And so we get home and we start setting up this fish tank, and he wants to fish like in the tank ASAP. And so I'm like, yeah, that checks out. So let's I pour all the fish in there, pour some faucet water in there, dump the fish in, and I kid you not. I mean, it's 8 o'clock at night. I'm putting him to bed. We had just gotten the fish tank set up, and he doesn't know what I know or have started to realize is that the fish started to swim upside down. And that's not a sign of a healthy fish anymore. I think we got a problem. Houston, we have a problem. So I tell Levi, oh man, your fish. He's like, man, Dad, my fish are so cute. I was like, they are. For now they are. I know that they are dying and I'm watching it unfold, but he doesn't know that. I come back up later that night and realize they're all suctioned to the filter that is in the tank. They are all dead. And I haven't even gone to bed. This is like 2 hours into the tank. I scoop the fish into a bag, take him and these dead fish back to the pet store, say, hey guys, what's going on here? He's like, you brought the dead fish in? Yes, I did. I'm trying to prove a point. I'm like, my son here, and is learning responsibility, and he let his fish die, but now we're here back again. And the guy was like, well, you have to control the environment before the fish can survive. And this began, what I thought was a gift for Levi ended up being a project for me. I spent 3 different trips to the pet store. I spent cumulatively over 2.5 hours with the pet store guy teaching me how to control my fish tank. This past weekend, my son Levi had a little friend over, and his little friend, this little punk, poured all of the fish food into the fish bowl. I had this thing down to a science. I built the whole ecosystem. It was humming. These fish were thriving, hamburger and hot dog. And then I realized this punk friend decided to take control of this tank and dumped all of the fish food in there. I scooped this thing up. It is 11 o'clock at night. I did get very mad. I'm just gonna confess that right now. I got very mad. Not proud of how I responded, but I got very mad. Then I took this fishbowl tank thing and put it downstairs, and I was at 11 o'clock at night at Hy-Vee getting like super distilled water, trying to get this thing back in action, resuscitate the tank. I realized that what I thought I had under control was starting to control me. And I wonder if that isn't just like an unbelievable statement for young adults growing up in a technological AI age where we're kind of not sure if we're being controlled, but it'll take a trip to Hy-Vee at 11 o'clock at night for 2 $4 fish to remind me, wait, why am I being controlled by this thing? I wonder if your life is being structured like that and you just haven't gotten to the 11 o'clock at night trip to Hy-Vee for hyper distilled water yet. Like, I wonder if your life, though you think you're in control, you're just confusing yourself for someone who thinks they're in control when in reality you're not in control at all. We're in this series called Secure the Bag, and the Secure the Bag motto is just a pop culture reference for teaching you to tend your treasure. That's what we're doing in this series here. But before I get going, I've gotten this vibe all in preparing this message that I'm just gonna be in some people's kitchen tonight. And so I'm gonna pray as a way of inviting myself into your kitchen. Is that okay? Let's pray with me. Lord, I pray that you be with us tonight. There's things that I can't do that you can, and I need you to do that, because if it's just me up here, then I'm gonna miss the moment. But if it's you speaking power through your words to the heart of your people, then you can categorically change the narrative of lives in the room and other rooms tonight by the proclamation of your word. And so I'm asking that your power would flow through your word, and that you would change the direction of our hearts, that you would keep us from being controlled subliminally by things that can ruin us and destroy us and keep us up at late hours of the night or ruining relationships. Lord, I pray that you would tend to these areas in our life, even tonight. I pray all of this in your name. All God's people said, amen. Amen. We're going to be in Matthew chapter 6, verse 19 through 24 tonight. Matthew chapter 6, verses 19 through 24 is where we're headed. This is the most popular sermon in the history of humanity, Jesus' Sermon on the Mount. Jesus is queuing up. He sees that there's a multitude of people following him. Jesus doesn't tolerate hype. He jumps into practical application, which is why he's preaching a sermon to these people. If you want to live an abundant life, well then you ought to know what it means to live abundant life. And so Jesus is teaching them from the Sermon on the Mount. Here's how to live practically. Here's how your life should look like. And one of the areas that Jesus uncovers in the Sermon on the Mount is the area that we're going to talk about tonight. It starts in verse 19, goes like this. Do not lay up for yourselves treasures on earth where moth and rust destroy and where thieves break in and steal. But lay up for yourselves treasures in heaven where neither moth nor rust destroys and where neither thieves do not break in and steal. So at the moment, Jesus just entered into this section of the message, this passage he's preaching, the Sermon on the Mount. And so we are like parachuting into this message, and he's starting to turn into a finance bro on us. Doesn't it sound like that? He sounds like it's his first day on Edward Jones. He's like, hey, you shouldn't invest there, invest here. Like, don't invest over on earth, but invest in heaven. This is like stupid simple. Like, this is pretty easy. He's like, okay, well, I'm going to take my treasure and don't put it over there. I'm going to put it over here. But I want to make two observations that I think are critical. We can make a lot of observations, but there's two in particular that I want to make tonight to you. We're going to play a quick game. You guys ready for this quick game? Everyone's going to have to participate. It's called fill in the blank. So I'm going to say a sentence and I'm going to pause and you fill in the blank for me, okay? Do not lay up for... Okay, so 3 people participated. We're gonna try that again. I'm hoping it was better in the Crossroads or Johnson County. Here we go. Do not lay up for yourself. Do not lay up for yourself. But lay up for... Do not lay up for yourselves, fill in the blank, but lay up for yourself. You guys are getting it, I think. We're going to try this again. I'm convinced. We can repeat. Do not lay up for yourselves, but lay up for yourselves. Don't you ever get caught thinking that God isn't intimately engaged with your well-being. It is so easy to think that God is only a God of the other people, of the others, of the other people, not me. He couldn't be that engaged with me, but he could be that engaged with lay up for the poor, lay up for the underprivileged. Lay up for your kids. Lay up for other people. But Jesus is teaching you, observation number one, that he's paying attention to you. Do not lay up for, but lay up for. This is confusing, isn't it? Because I thought we were supposed to be super selfless and we were supposed to just cut off everything that could be good and just live a really dark, meaningless, miserable life. And then we enter into heaven because we earned our stripes here on earth, thinking that it was just supposed to be all misery all the time. We need to unzip our lives from this false notion that God is so consumed with everyone else but you. And not only is he consumed for whatever reason with man, what is man? The psalmist says that you're mindful of him. Not only does he care about you, but he is giving you instruction about treasure in a way that benefits who? You. God is out on top of the equation, not involved in where the treasure is going. He's saying, don't lay up for me, lay up for you and me. This is unbelievable. I can't believe the amount of days I spent coming into a church service, either on a Tuesday night or a Sunday morning, or you name it, thinking that God was a part of this equation. But in reality, God, the author of the universe, preached a message on a hill to a multitude group of people saying, lay up for yourself. No longer can we confuse a God who's just some distant deity disengaged from the present reality of our daily life. He is actively consumed with making sure you matter to him. And because you matter to him, he is perpetually leaning towards your good. I think this point's amazing. It blew me away as I was reading it. I'm like, man, it seems like this is off, but God, it's right on brand with who God really is. Not who religion says that he is, but who he truly is for his word. When we read the Bible, we're reading the revelation of his character. We're understanding who God is. It's a beautiful thing. That's observation number one. There's a second observation I want to make. It's very basic. Don't lay up for yourselves treasure on earth, where rust and moss destroy, where thieves break in and steal. But lay up for yourselves treasures in heaven, where neither moth nor rust destroy, where thieves don't break in and steal. So the second observation I want to make is destination determines value. So the first observation is that God is for you. The second observation is that the destination determines the value. It's not the other way around. We are so prone to thinking that if we have a big amount of money, then that determines where we get to put it. But if we have a small amount of money, it doesn't matter where it goes. We just got to keep safe and keep steady. But Jesus in this passage is saying, no. It's not a matter of what, it's a matter of where. There is a international ice and snow sculpture festival in China. I have a picture of it for you here. Every year, the entire ice city costs $500 million to build. So this is an annual expense that China thought, hey, let's throw this in our budget. I think that this is a great use of money. Let's throw this in our budget. Here's what I want to propose to you. Just imagine for a second that I offered 1 year of this snow ice city to you. Hey, here, it's yours. I want to gift you this. Or I offered you $50. I think you would probably take the $50. Why is that? Because though there is $500 million in value over here, the destination of that value will be nothing in the spring. Unless it's like Kansas City right now, where we just revert back to winter again for a little while. Otherwise, it's of zero value to you. How could it be 500 million down to zero like that? Because of the destination of the value. You're like, how could $50 be more valuable than 500 million? It's all about destination. But don't we get caught thinking that it's better to have more value regardless of where it's at? There's two observations that are important to make. One, that God sees you and is for you and is intimately engaged in the reality of your financial life, along with all of the other areas of your life. But also that with Jesus, he pays not attention to the size of the treasure, but he instructs only where to place it. So you do not have to wonder with God. He's more consumed about what you're doing with what you have than what you're going to do ultimately when you have a lot. Just two observations. But maybe for someone in here, those two observations start to move the needle a little bit more in your life to getting you to realize that the thing that may be controlling you is the thing I'm about to unpack right now. So Jesus isn't saying, don't lay up for yourself treasure on earth, but lay it up in heaven. Some of us are just saying, well, why can't I just have fun now? Why does it matter whether my treasure lasts or not? Verse 21, for where your treasure is, there your heart will be also. So you cannot separate treasure and heart. They're inseparable. You can't pull them apart no matter how hard you try. This verse makes it very clear. Jesus is saying, for where your treasure is, there your heart will be also. And so you may be thinking that, oh, okay, so I must be susceptible to money controlling my life if I lay it up on earth. And you would be right, but it's not just because your treasure has a problem. Your treasure up on earth, if it's laid up on earth, there's a couple different problems it has. The first problem is moths. The second problem is rust. Both of those things destroy the treasure. The third problem is thieves. The thieves come in and steal the treasure. Okay, that's fine. If your treasure is potentially going to be consumed or destroyed, you might be sitting in here and be like, okay, well, I'll go start another side hustle and figure it out another way. Or I'll have some fun with money over here, but then I'll do what I'm supposed to do with money over here. But this verse is saying you can't do that. This verse is saying, okay, so if my treasure is susceptible to moth and rust and thieves, then get this. Then your heart is too. If your treasure is susceptible to these divisive, consuming, destructive agents, then it's not just your treasure's problem, it's your heart's problem. Now, this is where we pull off on an off-ramp and just make a note. So many people come to church services and they're like, man, I want a really spiritual message. I want a message that's really gonna move the needle of my heart. Don't talk about money. Come on. I wanna talk about things that I'm really dealing with. Let's work through anxiety. I would love to talk about anxiety because I'm dealing with some of that. Or I would love to talk about my mind. I'm feeling like my mind's in a haze right now. I'd love to talk about that, but don't talk about money. Like, I need something a little bit more spiritually mature than that. But if your treasure's where your heart is, then when you preach to treasure, you're preaching at the heart. And if you set your heart in a place where your treasure is, and if your heart is in the place where your treasure is, well, then it really starts to matter where your treasure is, because then your heart's there. You think I'm kind of belaboring a point, and I am. Because the turn I'm about to make is about to be radical. This will transform the way that you see your treasure, I'm hoping and praying. Because if my heart is susceptible to the effects of moths and rust, which is destruction, and then it's also susceptible to thieves, which break in and steal, that means if my treasure is on earth, if it's materialism, if it's consumed right here in this like visceral reality, then that means that my heart is susceptible to being destroyed and to being stolen. You may have not needed any of that explanation, but you feel it. You feel the eroding nature of your heart growing colder and colder with the reality of what Jesus is talking about here. Or you may sense deep in your soul, like, man, I feel like my heart is being stolen away from me. You may not feel it yet because you're young and you just haven't lived a whole lot of life yet, but let me just bring you into the ecosphere of being a pastor. 40% of marriages that end in divorce root cause their way down to financial problems. The problem with the fact that your heart ends up with your treasure and your treasure is being consumed by all these things is that your heart is also. And so our capacity to love and feel things and experience relationship and grow is being consumed because our heart is sitting right next to our treasure, which is being eaten alive. I'm gonna make one more point. You guys following me? This is crazy. Listen to this. This is familiar language. In John 10:10, Jesus says, the thief has come to steal, kill, and destroy, but I've come to give you life that you may have it what? More abundantly. So this is familiar language. You see what's happening here. There is a very real thief that has this effect on our heart because of our treasure location. So if our heart's in the same place as our treasure, guess what's happening? Our heart is being consumed by the devil. If our heart is being consumed by the devil, that just tells you where your treasure is. It's on earth. So my point that I'm trying to get across to you, to convey to you, because sometimes I think we just push money aside. It's not spiritual. It is absolutely spiritual. You think that the God of this age isn't moving and shaking without you knowing about it. You don't think he's constricting around your heart, telling you, no, stay here, you're fine. Stay here, you're fine. You're kidding yourself. Materialism isn't just a problem I need to figure out. Materialism isn't just like, man, laying up treasure on earth isn't just like, man, I know, I just gotta figure it out. I'll get better at it. I'll figure it out. I'll start giving a little bit more, you know? It's not just like I'm gonna make some behavior modifications that will get me back on track. It's a life or death problem. Materialism isn't just maybe we figure this out someday. It's satanic. Yeah, I'm in the kitchen now. It is absolutely satanic, and the longer we allow it to live and breed in our house, the more likely our hearts are to be consumed, destroyed, and stolen from us. And my biggest fear is that happens when you're not paying attention. Just like what happened with the fish in the fish bowl at 11 o'clock at night for me. I'm like, what happened here? When did I lose control? And it took control over me. I am praying that this doesn't be something that you just realize in your 50s and 60s and 70s. But if you realize what's at stake now, you will more aggressively attune your heart and your mind to tending it. I think you could tell I've been sitting on this for a minute. You're like, I thought this message was about money. Proverbs 4:23 says, above all else, guard your heart, for out of it flows the issues of life. So when Jesus is talking about where to place your treasure, he's not talking about, man, it'd be better investment if you put it here versus there. He's saying, you put it here, you will die. But if you put it here, you will live forever. You don't get to segregate the conversation of money and your soul. They go hand in hand. And the longer you just kick that conversation down the road, being tricked by the devil that it's not as it is, the longer you will be plagued with the reality that your heart is withering away and growing cold to the things that really matter. When I was little, like 2 years old, my mom still gives me grief about this. But I couldn't really talk great, and honestly, I didn't talk at all. And I was like 2.5 or so, I think 3, and I wasn't really talking. And I couldn't get what was going on in my head out. And so I would walk around the house banging my head against the wall. I did. Look at me now. You guys are listening to me. This is crazy. But something like during that time, I just couldn't get it out of my head. And at this point in the message, this particular message, man, I just sat down and I wrote what I wanted you to hear. And so I'm just going to read it if that's okay. Are you guys okay with me just reading it? I'm going to walk into I'm going to read slowly, but I want you to hear what I've wrote because I am convinced that this is what's happening to us, and we're just selling off the problem of control that the bag has over our lives to treating it as it's not that big of a deal. I wrote this, I said, the gallows of laying up your treasure on earth isn't bloody nor exotic. It's a wasted life spent on a million little insignificant decisions. It's a flaccid life that never took risks. It's a half-hearted life that leads your kids to see no courageous lunges towards maturity and meaning. It's a comatose life life constricted by worries worth nothing. It's a sleepy life lived in a monotony. It's the treadmilled life too costly to escape. It's a routined life with no good story. In fact, it's not a story because it's not a life. It's a machine, and machines are programmed with 3 ingredients: power, predictability, and control. This machine is made to consume or be consumed, all summoned with one single command: do thou will. A command in our culture that needs no convincing. Do thou will, of course, being the satanic occult's singular anthem. But tonight I want to propose to you a different command, a proposal to go off script, to alter the machine of this Western world, the one that you and I are living in, and invite you to a different anthem spoken by Jesus just a few lines before this passage. It's the opening line to a better story: thy will be done. Laying up treasure in heaven is starting to live a meaningful story, no longer controlled, beaten, and bruised by the bag. You see, Jesus starts with the treasure ultimately to get to the most important part, which is your heart. I wanted you to hear that because sometimes I think we get to thinking that it's not that big of a deal. And it is. So you're at the point now where you're recognizing, man, maybe I am controlled and I just didn't know it. How do I know where my treasure is? I'm so glad you asked that question. The rest of this message is pretty practical. I just kind of lit a fire in my soul and then breathe it out on you, and now we're gonna get super practical. You guys ready for that? We're gonna go really practical, really quick. Verse 22, the lamp of the body is the eye. If therefore your eye is good, your whole body will be full of light. But if your eye is bad, your whole body will be full of darkness. If therefore the light that is in you is darkness, how great is that darkness? Point number 2 is 2 perspectives. Jesus is tracing our treasure through our attention. He's looking at our eyes in reverse engineering, helping us to understand, hey, if your eye is healthy, then you will see things clearly. Light is just the illumination. If we turned all of the lights in here, your ability to see down in here, your ability to see would be next to nothing. It's extremely dark in here when there's no lights. You have no ability to perceive or see reality as it is. But if there's light on, then you have the ability to see reality as it is. You have the ability to have insight. When there's light, there is ability to have insight. And insight is so important. Light is so important because Jesus makes it really clear Paul makes it really clear in 2 Corinthians 4, verse 4. It's the light of the gospel by which we are saved from the God of this age. You see what Jesus is saying here? If you have the ability to see clearly, if your eye is healthy, that means you don't just know about the gospel. You don't just have information about the gospel. You haven't just read a pamphlet about the gospel. You haven't just heard about the gospel from someone. You have been illuminated to the light of the gospel at work in this world. Have you? If your eye is healthy, then your everyday moment is being consumed with the reality that the light of the gospel is true, and therefore my life gets to be this. If the light of the gospel is true in your life, then you can see clearly as things really are, and you can see value where there's value and no value where there's no value. But if your eye is not healthy, you will not perceive what is truly valuable and what is not. Jesus came down to earth to die for your sins so that you didn't have to. This is the singular greatest investment that has ever been made for your soul. The God of the universe laid his life down for you, then rose again so that you could have eternal life. Which means that if you're seeing that reality clearly, then that paints the picture clearly across everything else that is melting away. All of the money, all of the time, all the attention, all of the resources, all of the things that you build your life upon, how much of that is living underneath the reality that you have an eternity in heaven with the King? The truth of the gospel is what instructs our eyes to see clearly, but you know your treasures on earth if your attention is consumed by one of these 3 things. First is security. If you're taking notes, you can write this down. I'll repeat them a couple times. The first is security. Jesus' whole financial investment strategy earlier in this passage hinges upon this fear that I won't be able to keep what I have, that it won't last or it will get stolen. But the only reason I know that is a eye towards earthly treasure is that if your treasure is in heaven, you don't have an insecurity about your resources. There's no insecurity in the resources that you have and you're casting them into heaven. You don't have any insecurity because in heaven there's no insecurity. It's full security. You don't need to worry about a thing. There is full security in eternity for you if you know and follow and confess Jesus as the Lord of your life. The second is success. Is your mind riddled with the consuming thoughts of, I just need to be successful. I just need to make some more money. If I can make more money, then I will be successful. Then my parents will say I'm successful. Then my friends will see me as successful. Then my coworkers will see me as successful. If I can just make it to this level of status or success, then I'll be worth something. But if you place your treasure in heaven, that's not the economy of the kingdom. That's the economy of what you can see for today. Last one, significance. So security, success, and significance. You trace your attention to these things and your indicator is alert, 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 alert. Your eye is focused and turned and constantly consumed with treasure that's being placed on earth, not in heaven. The last one, significance. I just want to live a life of meaning and significance. I just want to have significance. I just want to be important. I just want to be valuable. And the only way to be valuable in this age is through what? Money. But it's amazing to me the men with such little money made such a great impact on eternity. I'm not saying there's greater value in having more value. What I'm saying is that your significance does not rise or fall based on your attention you give to your money. You get all of these in Jesus. You get security, you get success, and you get significance. So the longer you chase for those here through Instagram Reels and TikToks, the more you're inclined to think that you can get them here and outside of Jesus. And the more that you're inclined to think you can get them here and outside of Jesus, the more you will try to chase it down. And the more you try and chase it down, I've already talked about this with you, but your heart is susceptible to being destroyed and stolen from you. Ultimate control, not from God, but of the devil. The last verse, verse 24, no one can serve two masters, for either he will hate the one and love the other, or else he will be loyal to the one and despise the other. You cannot serve God and money. Point number 3, there's two masters. You can hear the undertone of the I want it all pull. The modernity machine built to produce this illusion that you can have your cake and eat it too. It's just not true. You can't have a life that is consumed with the purposes of what God has placed you on this earth for and also be tending your side hustle. You can't have them both. And in fact, if you're going to serve one, that means you have to turn down the other. You have to say, no, I'm not going to give my treasure to this. I'm consuming and giving my time and attention and treasure to this thing. That matters because so many of us think we can side hustle God. God, I can give to you and I can also go do my own thing. It doesn't work like that. Your life, if you aren't going to be controlled by money for the next decades of your life will be coming down to this one singular decision. Who is your master? Is your master the God of the universe who constructed the cosmos, who has every single cell sewn together, who has implanted every single grain of gold across the entire expanse of this earth? Is that God your master, or is your treasure on earth your master? And if your treasure on earth is your master, then you know what you're saying, who your master is. Your master is the God of this age. The God of this age is like a puppet strung by the devil, money. Either your master is this or this. It cannot be both. So how do you live a life tethered to one master, the king over the other? Such a good practical question. How do I make sure that my treasure is in heaven? How do I make sure that my eye is seeing it clearly? How do I make sure that I'm following the right master? How do I make sure that the bag doesn't control me and that I have control over the bag? Because the bag on the earth is not just trying to control you or cushion your life, it's trying to consume you. But how do you know? How are you sure? How do I know I've laid up my treasure in heaven? This is, of course, not just a financial, but for the sake of this conversation, we're going to focus on treasure. You need to embrace limits. There are things that are okay to do that you will choose not to do because you have one master, not two. There are 10,000 good things that you could do with your treasure that you won't do because you have one master, not two. And so you are doing something crazy old-fashioned called living with limits. Or in our home, we're starting to build up this idea where what's the lens through which we leverage our lives and our treasure for the kingdom? And here's three that I want you to take down. Making financial decisions that yields, one, more of Jesus in my life, more of his presence in my life now. Every time we show up at our house to this question, man, should we spend our money on that? Will it yield more of the presence of Jesus in our life today? Think about that. Like, will spending your money on subscription or that product or that facial cream that promises no wrinkles, or that red light therapy thing, or that whatever it is, will me spending money on this thing bring me more of Jesus or less? Now, you don't have to get crazy about it, because sometimes, honestly, to me, food brings me more of Jesus. I get hangry. I'm getting less of Jesus if I don't spend money on food, for sure. But it's not about what's right or what's wrong. It's about leveraging wisdom. Is your financial resources, are the things that you have in your life, are the decisions you're making with your money, are they bringing you and yielding more of Jesus's presence in your life? Because if you're being honest, you know the difference. You know the thing that you bought that is yielding and pulling your heart deeper into a pit that is further from Jesus than you want it to be. You know spending your money at that bar, doing that thing, is pulling you away from Jesus, not towards him. You can serve a master, and it doesn't have to be God, but there's consequences that come with serving the other master. Making financials that yields more of Jesus in my life. Making financial decisions that yield more of Jesus through my life. These are ways that you spend your money that allow eternity to be expanded. Investments in eternity. My wife and I just had, we had some extra money left over that we had an opportunity, whether we were gonna I'm sharing a bathroom with 3 kids under the age of 6, and they don't know where to spit their toothpaste. I don't know why they spit their toothpaste on the floor. Not sure why it ends up on the walls. Not sure why it ends up on the mirror. Not even sure why it ends up in the toilet sometimes. But they spit their toothpaste wherever they want to. And so I'm like, man, we could spend this extra money and we could improve the bathroom so we'd have more space. Or we could invest in space outside, leverage this money to be used outside, because we spend a lot of time with our neighbors outside. And we would rather spend more time with our neighbors outside who we don't really know but would like to get to know more, versus avoiding sitting on toothpaste on the toilet bowl. These are decisions that we're learning to make. We're not making perfectly. Sometimes I just man, I'm just gonna spend on that. I just want, and we're just learning over time that I just would rather have my investments going to something of value and not something that just melts away. I want more of Jesus in my life. I want more of Jesus through my life, and I want more of Jesus for my life. I want to plan for his plan for my life. I want my life to be making financial decisions that I'm expecting I'm going to need Jesus in the future. So many people hover around this idea that I don't need to plan for Jesus moving in my life. And so you don't give as if he's present and available, or you don't use your resources in that way. You anticipate Jesus not showing up. I could tell you countless stories of my own life where we've overextended because we knew we were gonna need Jesus then, so we might as well act like we're gonna need Jesus now. And we spend and give or do something, and God has shown up tenfold, 20-fold. It's unbelievable. There's one area in scripture where God calls you to testament. It's here. Will you? Will you plan for more of Jesus in your life? Will you plan for more of Jesus through your life? And will you plan for more of Jesus in your life today? Part of this series, one of the tests that we're bringing us to pull our hearts away from being controlled by money is this commitment card. We have this commitment card we've asked you guys to take. If you don't have it or forgot it or lost it or put it underneath your seat with all the other French fries in the car, that's okay. We have more available to you tonight, but here's the point. Last week, we asked you to take this and pray, God, would you make me a steward? This week, I want you to pray, God, would you set me free? Would you let me live free from being consumed by the thief and the moth and the rust? And let me live free. Part of planning for more of Jesus, getting more of Jesus for my life and planning for him to show up in my life in the future. So many of us are like, I don't know, Jesus got to provide now. And I'm asking you, plan for him to provide then too. I know the game. I left corporate America, came into ministry, and I'm just gonna say, the compensation scales are a little different. I know how it works. I've been in both worlds. And so I get what I'm asking. And I can tell you that it's so much better to have one master who has an eternal weight than a temporal master who can just control and manage and fixate yourself on the menial things of life. But this thing we're gonna use next week. So I'm asking you to pray, God, would you set me free from the areas where money is controlling me? Next week, we're gonna use this commitment card. We're gonna ask you to write on it. We're gonna say, God, I'm trusting you. This is a test. Am I willing to trust you with the next year of my finances? And if so, I'm gonna write down how much of that is going to go to you. It's all fun and games to talk about money until it comes time to actually making commitments and doing something about it. So we don't like to live in the philosophical, let's think about our money differently. It is a beautiful thing to start thinking about money differently. It is a radical thing to start doing something different with your money. And so as you're preparing and processing and praying, God makes no mistakes on the resources that he's given you. He just wants you to invest them in the kingdom. He's waiting around to see how you're going to manage the things that he's entrusted you with. What are you gonna do about that? If you guys would bow your head, we're gonna pray, then we're gonna get some time to respond at each of our locations. I want you to consider this question over the week. I'm gonna say it one more time so you don't forget. God, would you set me free from money having control over me? God, I pray that you'd use our time together tonight. This is what it feels like to preach on money, Lord. It feels like, man, we are so bent towards going our own way, thinking it can't be, this isn't that spiritual, but Lord, it is. God, would you lay our hearts and our lives down to the reality that money has more holds on our hearts than we are tend to giving it credit for. And with that, let us deal with it with sobriety. God, would you be with us? We so desperately want to live lives that are alive to you. We don't want to miss a moment. We don't want our hearts to grow cold and numb. We want our hearts to be alive with you. So would you be with us? Would you give us the courage that it takes to trust you when the whole world is telling us we need to trust in ourselves and what we can provide and what we can control and what we can sustain? Would you be with us and give us the courage to take ground, not for our kingdom here, but for our kingdom that's placed in heaven. It's in your name that we pray. Amen.